Native people, Native culture, Native knowledge. Hi, I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you award-winning Heartbeat Alaska.
Bringing you national and international Native news, this is award-winning Heartbeat Alaska, the premier Native voice in Native programming.
There's a heartbeat, louder than thunder, revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool to
Now, with Heartbeat Alaska, here's Jeannie Green.
Hello, welcome to Heartbeat Alaska, Native News and Native Entertainment. I'm Jeannie Green. Thank you for joining us once again. Hello to our viewers in Montana. Hello to our viewers across America and Canada. So nice to have you with us. Today, John Active gives us a report on the fishing situation here in Alaska. Fish means food on our tables. And in rural Alaska, there may be some problems. Heartbeat Alaska is Native News just for you. Join me after John for some village news. I'll be back, so don't go away.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
For a copy of today's program, send $25 check or money order to Heartbeat Alaska, 5861 Arctic Boulevard, Unit B, Anchorage, Alaska, 99518. Give us a call, 907-563-7440.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by the Division of Alcoholism and Drug Abuse and the Alaska Council on Prevention of Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Together, preventing substance abuse statewide.
And by Ute Air Alaska, official airlines of Heartbeat Alaska. Ute Air Alaska, taking you home.
Welcome to a very special place, the Chugach Heritage Center in Seward, a place where the rich culture of the Chugach people is presented in a unique environment, where legends of the past are brought to life in colorful performances.
I needed the younger people, our future, to make that connection with our past, which are the elders, and save who we are.
Very, very impressive show.
I just loved the show. It was really wonderful.
It's absolutely a must for you to see.
I'm proud that we have a place now where we can show our heritage and teach other people besides just our own culture.
For a truly remarkable experience, visit the Chugach Heritage Center in Seward, where exciting performances and unique exhibits take you beyond the legends.
You are mine, great Alaska, and I'm proud to be your native son. Oh, the beauty of your summers, wildflowers bloom as snow recedes.
The fishing industry is one of the prime industries here in the state of Alaska. For rural Alaskans, it's more than just an economic base for the rest of the year. It means food on the table. And this year's fishing looks disastrous. Here's John Active with that report.
Welcome to Native News Across the Country. I'm John Active. This week we're going to cover mostly fish stories because it is the middle of the summer and we're doing fishing all across the state and especially along the coasts. However, Western Alaska is facing another economic disaster this summer as poor salmon returns hit major fishing grounds along the coast. The worst king salmon run of the century is on the Yukon River, has all but stopped commercial fishing in the villages with essentially no other economic base. The Yukon River chum return crashed in 1993 and appears to be just as bad this year. On the Yukon River, chum salmon returns are a little better than last year, when they were so low even individual subsistence fishing was interrupted to ensure some spawning goals. This year's commercial fishing in the Yukon and Kuskokwim deltas is according to Tom Crum, Fish and Game's regional commercial fishing supervisor of the Arctic Yukon Kuskokwim region, an unprecedented disaster. Biologists suspect the weak runs are due to offshore conditions in the Bering Sea, and the problems could be connected to warming conditions of El Nino. The biggest shock this year, though, is the Yukon River king salmon run. With the commercial season on the lower Yukon virtually over, Kuskokwim, or rather Yukon River fishermen caught 36,000 kings, the lowest since statehood in 1959. The annual average catch is 105,000 kings. On the Yukon River, kings account for most of the commercial harvest. Kings bring home the most money in the small native villages. Now, instead of an average summer income of $10,000 for many households, Yukon fishermen are looking at $3,000 to $4,000 this summer. From Queenahawk, another southwestern Alaska village, a request by the tribal government of Queenahawk in southwest Alaska to police tourist fishermen on the Ganihtuk River has been rejected by the Knowles administration. Instead, the state will enlarge its own official presence in the area by sending extra money and personnel to that Yupik community. Queenahawk on the Bering Sea had sought authority for its own tribal police to enforce rules governing such things as camping limits and human waste along the Ganihtuk River, a popular fly-in sport fishing river that flows past the village. The river and its gravel bars are managed by the state, but village officials have complained for years that state officials rarely show up in the area, leaving no real authority. Queenahawk said it was willing to patrol the river under close state supervision. State officials agree, though, there are problems, particularly with human waste left on the gravel bars by anglers. The village draws its drinking water from the Ganihtuk, but the state said it has only limited authority over fishermen and campers on the Ganihtuk. For now, there will be more regular visits from Alaska State Troopers who now patrol the river with tribal police advising fishermen of the local rules. Queenahawk, which is pioneering a non-confrontational brand of tribal governance, had said it was willing to accept the state's authority in the aftermath of the U.S. Supreme Court decision earlier this year limiting tribal powers in Alaska. Village leaders said enforcement by tribal police would provide the state a low-cost way of extending its authority. The village agreed to train and certify its officers and even followed a state suggestion that the tribal police uniform be changed from black to a less menacing blue. The state's refusal to delegate responsibility this summer was a setback for Queenahawk, whose leaders have urged other tribes to work with state institutions and build credibility. From closer to Anchorage here, state Fish and Wildlife Protection officers cited 2 Palmermen last weekend for killing a king salmon with an arrow. The men were caught by a trooper last Friday night as they were pulling the fish to the bank of Moose Creek. One of the men told the trooper that he was just trying to feed his friend and needed to catch the fish quickly. Bow and arrow fishing is legal in a few Alaska lakes and streams, but not in Moose Creek. And finally, although not fishing news, congratulations goes out to Bambi Kraus of Cake. Bambi Kraus, an Alaska native, has been named to the Board of Trustees of the Institute of American Indian and Alaska Native Culture and Arts Development. Kraus, whose family is from Cake, has worked for the past 14 years on national Indian affairs. Kraus is a former executive director of Keepers of the Treasures, which works to preserve Native culture. The board Kraus has been named to oversees direction and control of the Institute of American Indian Arts, which relies on education and outreach to preserve and develop American Indian and Alaska Native arts. And that concludes Native news from across the country, and especially Alaska. Thank you for watching. I'm John Active.
Thank you, John. Alaska natives are dependent upon fish, whether they're from the far north coastal areas all the way down to the southeast Alaska Indians. Let's take a look at other natives across the state, how they depend on fish to live.
The smaller ones start coming in now.
In another part of the state, for the second year in a row, the Bristol Bay Fishery is expected to miss its projections and end as an economic disaster. The fisheries, just 4 years ago, saw a catch of 44.4 million salmon. This year, it's hoping to clear a mere 7 million salmon. Why? Well, 20 million red salmon fishermen supposed to catch just aren't there. There's speculation as to the reasons why. No one really knows. Some say that beluga whales in the Bay Area are eating the fish, or high seas drift netters are illegally taking them.
Somebody.
One argument heard from fishermen across the state that other fishermen are taking their salmon.
Hello.
Fish on that boat before?
No.
While we speculate about the reasons for the low fish runs, one thing is certain. The ramifications are felt around the world. Let's take a look at who buys salmon, who eats salmon around the world from a video from University of Alaska.
Most Alaskans believe that salmon prices start here, when a fish comes over the rail. But they don't. They actually start here, when a consumer somewhere in the world chooses to buy salmon at a certain price.
Merci.
All the money that pays everyone in the industry comes from this sale. Let's take a look at who in the world is currently buying salmon, what species they're choosing, and in what form. The biggest consuming nations are Japan, members of the European community, and the U.S. The Japanese are by far the largest consumers of salmon in the world. On an average, each person in Japan eats more than 5 pounds of salmon per year. For them, it's an everyday food. Salmon is most often purchased salted and sliced at a local market, grilled or cooked in a broth, and eaten with rice for breakfast or lunch. While the Japanese are eating more salmon now than a decade ago, overall the trend is to eat less seafood and more beef. The salmon they do eat includes increasing amounts of farmed salmon from Europe and Chile, as well as their own ranched Hokkaido chums. Russia could also become a major new supplier to Japan as the economics of this region evolve. The United Kingdom is the largest importer of canned salmon in the world. The British prefer tinned red salmon, which traditionally they eat in sandwiches and salads. France is second only to Japan as an importer of fresh and frozen product.
The fishery today produces 2/3 of the red salmon consumed in the world and employs thousands during the short midsummer spawning run. It accounts for thousands more full-time jobs in related marketing, financial, managerial, and support aspects of the industry. 100 to 150 million pounds of product with a wholesale value of $200 to $250 million annually, $250 million from the salmon fishery of the region alone. All of this is devoted to a single purpose: to capitalize on the huge biomass harvested during the very brief peak of the run. A microeconomic system devoted to the distribution of a natural resource throughout the world. It's a case of having to make hay while the sun shines, while storm clouds always seem to be gathering on the horizon.
And Cecilia and May and her daughter Darlene.
And when the catch is low, times are tough for everyone. After last year's run, the state declared an economic disaster in Bristol Bay and the lower Kuskokwim River area. The federal government, using a new provision under fisheries law, authorized $7.5 million to help the more than 5,000 fishing families in the regions.
Because we didn't set out our net. Maybe we'll try to get some when I get
Fred
back.
and Andrea Neilson live in Dillingham, Alaska. Every year, Fred commercial fishes to supplement the meager income that he gets the rest of the year. He's an electrician. He's also a minister. Fred and Andrea have a ministry in Dillingham, Alaska. A lot of their time is spent helping the community. This year, times look even tougher than normal.
Yeah. I was born in Mattakotuk, Alaska, and I was raised there. And I went to high school in Dillingham, graduated.
When the fish are scarce, they become so very precious. Routine chores like preparing the fish for drying become more important. From abundance to just making do. The natives of Alaska may face another tough winter. Of course, we may get a miracle. A lot of people are still out fishing. Some are still hoping that the salmon will stage a miraculous late run. If they do run late, it'll be later than any run in the past. So, whether you're on $1 million boat or casting a $3 lure, whatever fish you catch, it's more precious than gold.
Jeannie, here's your fish.
You are mine, great Alaska, and your beauty I behold. Snow-capped mountains, deep blue glaciers, winding rivers that run so cold. Hear the birds sing in the twilight of the summer's midnight sun. You are mine, great Alaska, and I'm proud to be your native son. Oh, the beauty of your summers, wildflowers bloom as snow recedes, warm winds blow in from the ocean. are painted, nets are mended, ready for the salmon run. You are mine, great Alaska, and I'm proud to be your native son. I have braved your coldest winters. I have fished your stormy seas. I have trapped your lakes, your rivers, like my father before me. Happy memories of my childhood follow me where'er I roam. You are mine, great Alaska, and you'll always be my home, sweet home. Yes, you'll always be my home, sweet home.
For a copy of today's program, send $25, check or money order to Heartbeat, Alaska, 5861 Arctic Boulevard, Unit B, Anchorage, Alaska, 99518. Give us a call, 907-563-7440. Thank you so much for joining us for Heartbeat Alaska Native News and Native Information. And as usual, I'm asking for video from your reservation, from your village, from your town. Heartbeat Alaska depends on your help in getting Native news on the air. So please, would you get your camcorder out? Let me know what's happening. I'd love to get some fish camp video. Send them here. Call me at 907-563-7440. And if you've had a hard time recently in reaching me, it's because we moved our studios. But please keep trying. Leave your name and number. I'm Jeannie Green. God bless you. Have a fabulous summer. I'll see you again next week.
It's summertime here in Alaska, and there are thousands and trillions and billions of mosquitoes buzzing around. In fact, just a little earlier, I got bit on my left ear here. Let me tell you a story. It's a word of warning, especially for you young girls and tourists here in Alaska. There was once this young girl who was out picking berries, or actually walking on the tundra, and she'd hear this mosquito buzzing in her ear. And when she'd hear it buzzing, she'd say, "Yeah, okay, sure, mm-hmm." And then every time she'd hear the mosquito buzzing near her ear, she'd say, "Yes, yeah, okay, sure." Of course, she didn't know what the mosquito was buzzing, but she always answered in the affirmative. One day in the fall, while she was sitting at home, there was a knock at the door, and this tall, skinny man came in. And he came up to her and said, "Well, I've come to take you to be my wife, because you agreed to be my wife." And she said, "You've never asked me. I've never seen you before. I'm not going to agree to be your wife." He said, "Yeah. Every time I was buzzing in your ear this summer, you always said, 'Yes, sure.' And that was when I was proposing to you. So all your young girls out in the villages, when you hear a mosquito, make sure you get it and, get rid of it, because one of these days, some strange man, tall and thin, might come in and ask you to be his wife." Thank you for listening.